Chapter 397, Foster Father, Foster Mother 2. Li Chenmo smiled when he saw those words. He took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, handed it to Comrade Jiang and said, "Comrade Jiang, thank you for your help today." Jiang Zemin saw the cigarette brand and happily accepted it. A pack of these cigarettes costs 12 yuan, and you need an industrial coupon to purchase them. Normally, people would buy one package for 140 yuan, which is equivalent to 12 packs, which is 4 yuan cheaper than buying it on retail. "Comrade Li, it's a small matter. If you need help in the future, just come and find me," Jiang Zemin said with a smile. Li Chenmo stood up and said, I won't take your time any longer. See you next time, Comrade Jiang." After he sent off Li Chenmo, Jiang Zemin divided the cigarettes with his comrades. When he got home, he saw his wife and adoptive children chatting happily while making wine. Seeing the smile on his wife's face and bright eyes, he felt that adopting the Dong siblings was the right thing to do. With them accompanying his wife, she will not feel lonely when he is not at home. Seeing that her husband was back, Lu Jiu said, "Husband, you are back. Has the matter been resolved?" Li Chenmo parked his bicycle, walked to his wife, leaned over and kissed her forehead and said, it's settled." Seeing their affection, Dong Li and Dong Huang have been working with them for almost a month, and are used to it. Hearing his words, Dong Huang was overjoyed and blurted out, "Foster father, you are back." As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned, including Dong Li. He had told Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu before that they couldn't call them father and mother. However, his sister now calls Uncle Li her foster father. He looked at his sister with mixed emotions. He wanted to correct his sister, but the words stuck in his throat. Li Chenmo squatted in front of her, patted Dong Huang's head, and said with a smile, "Good girl." Hearing his praise, Dong Huang felt happy. She looked at Lu Jiu with bright eyes and sweetly shouted, "Foster mother." Lu Jiu came to her senses after hearing this, nodded, and said, Good daughter." For Dong Huang, calling Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu her foster father and foster mother was a matter of course. Now that they have been adopted by Uncle Li and Aunt Li, they should be called father and mother. After Dong Huang called them, the three of them looked at Dong Li. Seeing his sister's expectant eyes, he smiled helplessly and said, "Foster father, foster mother." As soon as these words came out, Dong Huang jumped up, clapped her hands and said, "Yeah, Zyro Huang has parents now." Hearing her words, Dong Li felt his chest was blocked. He thought that with him accompanying his sister, it was enough. It turns out that she has always longed for the presence of her parents in her life. Sensing his mood, Li Chenmo patted him on the back and said, "Zyro Li did a good job raising and protecting Zyro Huang, but now you have us. We will protect you both. Trust us, okay?" Unknowingly, Dong Li felt scared, afraid that this is all just a dream, an illusion that will be shattered in the next second. He wouldn't feel bad if he never experienced the warmth before, but after he knew how good it was to have someone to depend on and lose it, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to face life bravely as before. Therefore, he kept reminding himself not to be too greedy, not to depend on them too much, and to keep his distance from Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu. After all, even grandparents, uncles, and aunties who are related by blood can treat them as if they are trash, let alone strangers. He looked at his adoptive parents for a long time, and finally asked in a low voice, If one day you decide that you don't want me and my sister anymore, can you tell me before driving us away? I promise we won't pester you." As soon as they heard what he said, Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu knew that Dong Li's refusal was not because he didn't like them or didn't trust them, but because he was afraid of being abandoned again. They heard that shortly after the Dong siblings' father passed away, their mother's family drove them away, severed their family ties, and took away all the property left by their parents. As for their father's family, no one knows who they were, because their father was discovered by their mother in the foothills. Their father suffered a head injury and lost his memory. At that time, he only remembered his surname is Dong and had no memory of himself. He doesn't even know his own name. Dong Li was convinced that his father was a soldier because his mother said that when she found his father, he was wearing a military coat. But due to memory loss, he was unable to return to the army. Without any information, he had no way to prove that he had enlisted. In the end, he could only settle down in the village and work on the farm to earn work points. Even the household registration was obtained only after he and his wife got married. Unfortunately, he never recalled his memory until the day he died. Lu Jiu felt heartbroken for them, hugged Dong Li and said, "Zyro Li, don't worry, we won't drive you and your sister away. From today on, you and your sister are my husband and my children. No matter what happens in the future, you are all our children." Dong Li clenched his fists tightly and said, I will be filial and will take care of my younger brothers and sisters in the future. Good, Lu Jiu patted his back and said with a smile. He thought the mood was too depressing, so Li Chenmo said, well, it's such a happy day, we should celebrate. Lu Jiu let go of Dong Li and said, husband, you are right. How about we invite our family to have dinner together to celebrate? Li Chenmo nodded and said, I'll invite our family over. Because it was a sudden decision, Li Chenmo quickly went to invite people from the Lu family and the Li family, while Lu Jiu went to the kitchen to cook. She planned to take out the food in the space and said, Zyro Lei, take Zyro Huang to Grandma Li, Grandma Su and Aunt Liu Hua's house and invite them to a meal. Since they have a good relationship with the Lu family, Lu Jiu wants to share her happiness with them. After all, they have helped her so many times, so it is natural to treat them to dinner. Dong Li nodded and said, foster mother, we are going now. When she was alone, Lu Jiu lit a fire and boiled a pot of water, then entered her own space and prepared dinner inside. There were only a few hours until dinner, so there was no time to prepare so many dishes. She made a rough calculation and found that at least 5 tables of food would be needed to accommodate the guests. For the soup, she used the fish caught by Dong Lei and Dong Huang, as well as some fish in her space, to make the fish soup. Then, she washed 15 kilograms of white rice and steamed it with pandan leaves. While the rice was steaming, she made kung pao chicken, mapo tofu, braised eggplant with tofu and mushrooms, scrambled eggs with tomatoes and japchae. Since there was a large amount of food to prepare, it took her several hours to prepare it. She took a bath and rested in the space for a while before leaving the space. When she showed up in the kitchen, the water had not yet boiled. To avoid suspicion, she prepared the same dish in the kitchen, but in smaller portions. In this way, when guests come, they can smell the aroma of the dishes and won't be suspicious. She took out the pot of fish soup and placed it on the brazier to keep it warm. As for the rice, she placed it on the kitchen table and covered it with a clean cloth. 30 minutes later, Dong Li and Dong Huang came back with Li Lingyun and Pan Meijia. When Li Lingyun went to borrow a table and bench, Pan Meijia and the children went to the kitchen to help Lu Jiu. Lu Jiu saw them coming and said, Zyro Lei, Zyro Huang, can you help me wash the dishes? They were used to doing housework and readily agreed, yes, foster mother. While the children were washing dishes in the backyard, Pan Meijia walked into the kitchen and took a deep breath. She sighed and said, Jiu, what did you cook? It's so fragrant. Lu Jiu took the kung pao chicken out of the wok and poured it into a basin, while saying, I just finished steaming the rice and the fish soup is simmering. This is kung pao chicken, mapo tofu, and braised eggplant with tofu and mushrooms. Pan Meijia walked to the dining table and looked at the food with wide eyes. She swallowed her saliva and said, Jiu, these foods look delicious. Hearing her words, Lu Jiu chuckled and said, if you are interested, I can teach you the recipe. Isn't this not appropriate? This is your money-earning skills, how can I learn at will? Pan Meijia said, knowing that her friends don't like to take advantage of their friendship. Lu Jiu thought for a moment and said, how about I teach you after you become my second sister-in-law? This way, my family skills will stay in the family. When Pan Meijia heard this, she blushed and said, all right then. Not long after, the guests' voices were heard coming from the front yard. Since there is nothing to help with in the kitchen, Pan Meijia went to the front yard to help arrange the tables and stools. While she was away, Lu Jiu quickly took out the food she had prepared from her own space and poured the food she had just cooked into the basin. When Zhang Dongmei entered the kitchen, she saw Lu Jiu dividing the dishes into 5 portions. Looking at the sumptuous meal, she thought Lu Jiu had been cooking since noon and said, Jiu, just tell me next time you need to prepare so much food. I can come over and help you. It's too tiring to cook so much by yourself. Lu Jiu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, no one became suspicious. While plating the food, she smiled and said, sister-in-law, you are here. Zhang Dongmei sighed and said, you are still young and have not felt the physical burden from the work. When you get older, you will know the consequences for overtiring yourself. Sensing the concern in her sister-in-law's voice, Lu Jiu nodded and said, I understand, sister-in-law. I will definitely ask you for help next time. Zhang Dongmei glanced at her and said, you had better remember your words. After a brief conversation, Chen Anwen and Wang Muxiao also came over to help bring out the utensils and dishes, while Pan Meijia helped the Dong siblings wash the pots and pans. After that, they walked to the main courtyard's living room. Lu Jiu walked into the living room carrying a few small bottles of tonic wine. She looked at the guest and smiled. In addition to Aunt Li and Aunt Su, who came with their families, there was also Liu Hua, who came alone. At the age of 22, she was still unmarried and was called a leftover woman by the villagers. But she never cared about their words and lived the life as she wished. Even her parents almost gave up on finding a husband for her. No one knows why she refused to marry, even though her parents found a good partner for her several times before. Unlike the awkward atmosphere at lunch, the atmosphere now was relaxed. Since the guests who came were all people close to Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu, Dong Li and Dong Huang felt much more relaxed. They even call the elderly as grandpa, grandma, uncle, and aunt affectionately. As for the Lu family, they treated the Dong siblings as their own grandchildren. The Lu family is the perfect example of the proverb, love the house, love the crow. From the moment their daughter adopted these two children, they became part of the Lu family. At this time, Mother Lu and Father Lu were taking out the red envelopes they had prepared and said, Ziro Lei, Ziro Huang, this is a gift prepared by your grandparents for you, take it. Both of them glanced at Li Chenmo, asking for his permission. Seeing him nodding, they finally dared to accept the red envelope and said, thank you, grandmother and grandfather. Not to be outdone, Father Li also took out his own gifts and handed them to the children, followed in order by the rest of the Lu family and the Li family. Chen Lina saw a stack of red envelopes in the hands of Dong Li and Dong Huang and whispered, aren't they just orphans? What are the Lu family and Li family showing off for? Instead of giving so much money to foster children, wouldn't it be better to spend it on their biological children? After hearing what her daughter-in-law said, Aunt Li's face darkened and she said, if you only know how to make trouble, you'd better go back quickly. Don't embarrass my Li family. Although she was unhappy, Chen Lina did not dare to go against her mother-in-law at all. Although Aunt Li is amiable in front of everyone, she is very strict with her daughter-in-law. Therefore, only the eldest of the three sons lived with her. As for the second and third sons, because their wives could not bear to live with Aunt Li, they moved to the town. After the Lu family and the Li family handed over gifts to Dong Li and Dong Huang, Li Chenmo poured the tonic wine into his wife's and his own cups and said, everyone, thank you for coming today. Today my wife and I want to share our happiness. From today on, Dong Li and Dong Huang are all our children. I hope everyone can bear witness to this. After saying that, he drank the wine in one gulp. Following him, everyone finished their wine, and the children drank juice. Sitting at the same table with the children, Dong Li was still very reserved, unlike his sister. At this time, Li Jingqian noticed this, and took a large spoonful of Kung Pao chicken with his spoon, and put it in Dong Li's bowl. The food cooked by my third aunt is delicious. If you stay in a daze again, the food will be gone when you come back to your senses. Before Dong Li could speak, Li Jingqian looked at the children and said, hey, can't all of you be more polite? Leave some for me. Dong Li was surprised to see them fighting over food. He glanced at his sister, who had already joined the fight, filling up her bowl while she was busy chewing. He never knew his sister was so good at using chopsticks. Her movements are no slower than the older children. After listening to Li Jingqian's words, he felt much better. Seeing the dishes disappearing at an extremely fast speed, he also joined the food fight. Unknowingly, Dong Li forgot about the restraints and regarded the children of the Li family and the Lu family as her own brothers and sisters, and quickly snatched away the food. He also put some food into Lu Wenyi and Lu Wenmu's bowl while filling his own. Seeing that the children were getting along well, Lu Jiu breathed a sigh of relief. Indeed, with Li Jingqian there, the atmosphere could not be awkward. Despite his young age, he is smart and observant. Combined with his bubbly personality, he's like the catalyst that holds everything together. Just when she was lost in thought, she heard her husband's voice, wife, don't worry about them. You should eat more. Seeing the food already piling up in her own bowl, she nodded and said with a smile, thank you, husband. The family dinner lasted 2 hours. After cleaning up, the guests returned to their homes. Li Chenmo locked the doors, washed up, and went to bed. Since today was the first day that Dong Li and Dong Huang moved into their home, Lu Jiu did not bring her husband to her space but slept outside in case the children were frightened at night. The next morning, when Lu Jiu woke up at dawn, Dong Li had already gotten up and was sweeping the front yard. After coming out, she was surprised to see him and asked, Ziro Li, why did you get up so early? Dong Li stopped sweeping the floor, raised his head and said, good morning, foster mother. I used to wake up before dawn, so I can't sleep any longer. Lu Jiu didn't ask him to change his habits and nodded, wear thicker clothes if you get up early, so as not to catch a cold. Come in after sweeping the yard. All right. Lu Jiu went to the kitchen to light a fire and boil a pot of water for them to wash up. After the water was ready, she washed herself with it and boiled another pot for Dong Li. At the same time, she lit the brazier and made some scallion pancakes in a small pan. For breakfast, in addition to scallion pancakes, she also made a pot of plain porridge, a basket of meat buns, and a pot of soy milk. She also took out some century eggs and a jar of meat sauce from her space. Since the children have to go to school today, she needs to prepare some snacks for them. Although school ends at noon, studying requires a lot of brain power and energy, which makes the children feel hungry faster. So Lu Jiu packed 2 scallion pancakes, a few slices of beef jerky, 2 vegetable and chicken fresh spring rolls, and a bottle of infused water she prepared in her space. After she wrapped the snacks with oil paper, Dong Li entered the kitchen and asked, "Foster mother, is there anything I can help you with?" Lu Jiu smiled and said, "Foster mother is already done here, you go and wash up first." Dong Li nodded, scooped some hot water into the bucket, and went to the bathroom to wash up. When he came out of the bathroom, Li Chenmo and Dong Huang were already awake, and they took turns washing up. After breakfast, Li Chenmo went to the pig pen, while Lu Jiu and the children went to water the vegetable garden. With the help of Dong Li and Dong Huang, the work was completed faster. When the sun rose higher, Lu Jiu stuffed snacks and bamboo bottles into their school bags and said, "Foster mother has prepared some snacks and water for you too. Remember to eat them later and be careful on the road." Dong Li nodded and said, "We are going now, foster mother." Dong Li and Dong Huang carried their school bags and walked to school together, while Lu Jiu and Li Chenmo went to harvest vegetables. After a while, Beiji will come over and hand over the reservation order to them. When the Dong siblings walked to school, they found that the villagers had been staring at them and whispering. Although they feel uncomfortable, they don't want to cause trouble to their adoptive parents, so they tried to ignore the villagers and quickened their pace. When they arrived at the intersection, they saw Li Jinqian, Li Jingsu, and Lu Wenyi waiting for them. Seeing them coming, Li Jingsu waved to them and said, "Cousin, what took you so long to come? We have been waiting for a while." Hearing Li Jingsu call them cousins easily, Dong Li smiled. As they approached, he said, "Sorry to keep you waiting. We'll come early tomorrow." "It's all right, brother," Lu Wenyi said with a yawn. Seeing that he kept yawning and walking with his eyes half closed, Dong Li smiled. He carried his school bag on his front, squatted down and said, "Xiaoroi, come up, brother will carry you to school. You can sleep for a while." No matter how sensible Lu Wenyi is, he is only a 4-year-old child. When he heard that he could sleep for a while, he quickly climbed onto Dong Li's back and muttered, "Thank you, brother, I'm very sleepy. Xiaoroma was grinding his teeth when sleeping yesterday. I couldn't sleep well." Dong Li supported his bottom with his hands and said, "MHMM, go to sleep." Seeing his elder brother piggyback Lu Wenyi, Dong Huang didn't feel the slightest bit of jealousy. Since they were cousins, she was willing to share her brother's care with him. Because they go to school together, other children who wanted to cause trouble for the Dong siblings cancelled their plans. Although the Li brothers are young, they are strong and very good at fighting. Not to mention that they like to fight in groups. Even in a one-on-one battle, it is difficult to defeat them. When the children thought they were letting Dong Li go because of the Li brothers, little did they know that they were just avoiding a disaster. With Dong Li's character, if they dare to plot against him, they will definitely suffer a lot. Su Anna is the best example. At the same time, in the Gao family's house, Su Anna was shouting and kicking frantically. "Let me go, you old woman. I don't want to marry your ugly grandson." Grandma Gao was irritated by her words and pinched Su Anna's waist with all her strength. Since she can't slap the bride today, then she will pinch her to death. Let's see if she still dares to go against her. Feeling the sharp pain on her waist, Su Anna screamed, tears streaming down her eyes. "Ah, you old bitch, how dare you pinch me? Let me go." The matchmaker stood outside the bedroom, watching this scene in shock. Everyone thought that after falling into such an embarrassing situation, Su Anna would marry De Gao obediently. No one expected that on the wedding day, they would see her shouting and cursing like a crazy woman. Not to mention it's unlucky, it's just like throwing the Gao family's face to the ground. 10 minutes later, Su Anna finally lost the courage to resist Grandma Gao anymore because of the beating. She could only try to avoid Grandma Gao's outstretched hand, while crying, "Stop pinching, it hurts. I'm sorry, please don't pinch me again." Seeing that Su Anna finally gave in, Grandma Gao stopped pinching her and said, "Su Anna, you better behave today, otherwise don't blame me for being ruthless. If you dare to humiliate my Gao family in front of the villagers, let's see how I deal with you later." At this time, Su Anna sat on the ground with her head lowered. Although the redness and rash on her face had lessened, her face was covered in tears and snot and looked like a mess. She nodded and said, "I don't dare anymore." Satisfied with her answer, Grandma Gao turned to the matchmaker and said with a smile, "Sister-in-law, I have let you see a joke. Please help the bride put on her makeup." The matchmaker nodded and said, "That's a matter of course. Sister-in-law, please don't worry. Today I will dress your granddaughter-in-law into the most beautiful bride in our village." Grandma Gao nodded and said with a smile, "Then I'll leave this matter to you." After leaving these words, Grandma Gao left the bedroom. She didn't forget to close the door and lock it to prevent Su Anna from running away. Hearing the sound of the lock, the matchmaker looked at Su Anna with pity and said, "Niece Su, let's clean your face first." With the help of the matchmaker, Su Anna wiped her body and face before putting on a clean set of clothes. Usually, even if they don't wear a wedding dress, the villagers will put on a new set of clothes and pin a red flower on the chest of the bride and groom. The matchmaker looked at Su Anna's clothes and sighed. Her clothes are not only old clothes, they're not even red flowers pinned on her clothes or hair at all. Although she felt sorry for her, the matchmaker was helpless. After all, if Su Anna doesn't get married today, she will go to jail, which will ruin her life. Su Anna clenched her fists tightly as the matchmaker helped her put on makeup. She thought the Gao family would wait until her rash and swelling healed completely before holding the wedding. Unexpectedly, she was caught off guard by their sudden decision to hold a wedding today. It had only been 2 days since she sent the telegram to Zyro Yiguan, and it took Zyro Yiguan's men at least 3 to 5 days to arrive. She worried that by the time they came to save her, it would be too late. If she wants to marry Li Chenmo, she cannot lose her purity. No matter what, she couldn't let De Gao touch her. With this thought, she observed the room, looking for something that could be used to protect herself. When her eyes fell on the wooden hairpin used by the matchmaker to hold her hair, a cold light flashed in her eyes. Even though they are made of wood, the tips of the hairpins are sharp enough to hurt someone. After making the decision, Su Anna calmed down and didn't resist much. Seeing this, the matchmaker sighed, thinking that it would be a pity for an educated youth to marry a village man, especially a person with no future like De Gao. After all, there were several educated youths who had pursued Su Anna before. If she hadn't insisted on Li Chenmo and married another man, she wouldn't have ended up where she did today. While the matchmaker was busy helping Su Anna put on makeup, De Gao was entertaining the guests with a smile on his face. Since his bride lived in the same house as him, they didn't need a bride-picking ceremony. At this time, several wedding banquet tables had been set up in the front yard. Although De Gao is known as a useless delinquent, Grandma Gao has a good relationship with the neighbors. Therefore, several women still came to help prepare the wedding banquet dishes. At first, Grandma Gao wanted to ask Lu Jiyu to help prepare the wedding banquet, but after what happened yesterday between Su Anna and her, Grandma Gao changed her mind. Eventually, she could only settle for ordinary dishes for her grandson's wedding banquet. In the kitchen, women are cutting vegetables, kneading dough, and making pancakes. Some women were washing pots and pans in the backyard. When Grandma Gao came over to check on the preparations, she saw one of the women pouring 2 spoons of oil for cooking. It pained her to see her waste her precious materials as if they were free. But today was her eldest grandson's wedding banquet, so she gritted her teeth and endured it. Although it looked like the lady used a lot of oil, there wasn't even an egg in the vegetable dish. In order to improve the taste, she can only use more lard. 2 tablespoons of oil is not much at all compared to the amount of vegetables cooked. Not knowing that Grandma Gao was dissatisfied with her, the middle-aged woman smiled and said, "Aunt Gao, we just need to cook noodles, then we can start the banquet." Grandma Gao glanced at the beaten eggs in the bowl and asked, "Niece, what noodles are you going to make?" "Since we only have one meat dish, I'm going to make egg noodle soup." Upon hearing this, Grandma Gao nodded, but didn't say much. After Su Anna married into their family, the 10 yuan that was used as a bride price and Su Anna's money will become the Gao family's money. Therefore, it is still acceptable to spend a little money on the wedding banquet. While the Gao family was busy, Liu Hua was on her way to find Wang Muxiao. Because of her excitement, she didn't pay attention to the intersection and bumped into Zyro Li. As soon as her nose hit Zyro Li's chest, she exclaimed, "Ayo, my nose." Seeing Liu Hua almost being knocked to the ground, Zyro Li quickly reached out and held her wrist. He pulled her back and helped her stabilize her footing. He looked into her tearful eyes and asked, "Liu Hua, are you okay?" Hearing the familiar voice, Liu Hua raised her head and saw Zyro Li looking at her with worry. She knew that her childhood sweetheart was not as indifferent as he claimed. She covered her nose and glared at him, saying, "Ah Lei, you almost broke my nose. If no one wants to marry me because of my crooked nose, what should I do?" Seeing that she could still complain and talk nonsense, Zyro Li breathed a sigh of relief, withdrew his hand and said, "Your nose is not broken." Remembering that the Liu family was talking about Liu Hua's marriage with the Huang family in the neighboring village, he took 2 steps back to distance himself from her and said, "Pay attention to the intersection when walking." After saying this, he left without looking back. Looking at his back, Liu Hua sighed and muttered, "Silly Ah Li, if you still do nothing, I will marry another man." She knew that he had low self-esteem and did not dare to propose to her, even though she didn't mind his family background or wealth at all. She actually rejected so many promising men just to wait for him. However, she is now 22 years old, and she can no longer refuse her parents' arrangements. Liu Hua shook her head, turned around and walked towards the Liu family. Since there is gossip, she must share it with her friends. As for the Liu family, Wang Muxiao and Chen Anwen were sitting on the Kang bed in Mother Lu's room. The door was closed, and no one knew what they were talking about. Chen Anwen took out her purse from her clothes, handed it to Mother Lu and said, "Mother, this is the money I earned from helping Juyu." Mother Lu was startled by the thickness of the purse and looked at her eldest daughter-in-law with questioning eyes. Before she could ask, Wang Muxiao also took out her purse and said, "Mother, this is mine. Because I don't help much, I don't make as much money as my sister-in-law." Mother Lu looked at their purses and said, "Since you two earned it, you can keep it." "But Mother, aren't you in charge of our family's money? Since we haven't separated yet, it's natural to hand over the money we earned to you," Chen Anwen said. Mother Lu was happy after hearing what she said, but she still refused the money and said, "Both of you work hard to earn this money, so just keep it." Due to their mother-in-law's insistence, Chen Anwen and Wang Muxiao could only take back their money. After they left the room, Mother Lu took out a jar from the cabinet and started to divide the money. On the eve of Lu Jiyu's wedding, Mother Lu had already discussed household separation with her husband. Since their sons already had a family of their own, it was time to separate the family. They can still live as before because they live in different buildings and just share a kitchen. It's just that they may need to set some rules when it comes to food rations. Therefore, this is a good time to separate before harvest time. As soon as Wang Muxiao hid her money, she heard Liu Hua's voice coming from outside. "Ah Zyro, are you at home?" Hearing her friend's voice, Wang Muxiao quickly went out, opened the door and asked, "Ah Hua, what brings you here today?" Liu Hua entered the room and said, "Ah Zyro, today is the wedding banquet of De Gao and Su Anna." When Wang Muxiao heard the news, she was surprised and asked, "Didn't they say they would wait for Su Anna to recover? Why is it so sudden?" "What else? It's because that vixen went to see Juyu yesterday that made Grandma Gao so angry." Wang Muxiao quickly took Liu Hua to her house, poured her a glass of water and asked, "Then, what happened to make you so excited?" Liu Hua took a gulp of water and said, "When I left their house, Grandma Gao was still beating Su Anna because she refused to get married. Everyone had gone over to watch the commotion. As far as I know, Grandma Gao originally wanted to invite Juyu to help cook the wedding banquet, but after what happened yesterday, she changed her mind and asked Aunt Mao instead. She asked Aunt Mao to help cook. Who doesn't know that Aunt Mao likes to use other people's ingredients as if they are free? Although it is delicious, it is not cheap at all. Grandma Gao is notoriously stingy in our village. Is she really willing to let Aunt Mao use her ingredients like that?" Wang Muxiao said in surprise. Liu Hua smiled and said, "Grandma Gao couldn't do anything about it either. After all, many villagers don't like their family because of her grandsons. Only those who like to take advantage of others still want to associate with them. It seems that Su Anna has no other choice now except marrying De Gao," Wang Muxiao said. Liu Hua glanced at her friend and said, "Ah Zyro, shouldn't you be happy? That vixen is finally married and won't bother Juyu's husband anymore." Wang Muxiao sighed and said, "Well, I should be happy as Juyu's sister-in-law, but knowing that Su Anna was forced to get married as a woman, I couldn't be happy at all." After a moment of silence, she looked at Liu Hua and said, "Ah Hua, did you have a good chat with Zyro Li about the matter between both of you? This time, it will not be easy for you to escape from your parents' arrangements." Hearing this, the light in Liu Hua's eyes dimmed and she said, "What to talk about with him? Even if we meet in the streets, he treats me like a stranger. He probably doesn't care who I marry at all." Wang Muxiao saw the bitter smile on her friend's face, held her hand and said, "But you too." Before she could finish her words, Liu Hua interrupted her. "Ah Zyro, he was drugged that time and didn't know it was me. Promise me not to tell anyone about this. I don't want him to marry me because of this matter. Unless he likes me, I won't force him to marry me. But you can't hide it from him or your future husband forever. Your parents have already exchanged your date of birth with the Huang family. If you don't do something, you will marry another man. Are you really willing to give up like this? Liu Hua patted her friend's hand and said, I will wait until my wedding day. After all, that man already has someone he likes, and I already made a deal with him. If no one comes to stop the wedding on the wedding day, we will get married. He already knows what happened between me and Zyro Li, and he doesn't mind. We will respect each other and have children to fulfill our parents' wishes, she added casually. Wang Muxiao sighed and could only say, now that you have made your decision, I will support you. Ah Hua, no matter what the outcome is, I hope you will be happy. Thank you, Zyro, Liu Hua smiled. Well, we shouldn't discuss this anymore. Do you want to go watch the fun with me? She changed the topic. Since there was nothing going on at home, Wang Muxiao agreed. Liu Hua hugged Lu Wenfeng and went to the Gao family's wedding banquet together. Since they couldn't come empty-handed, they also brought a jar of pickles as a wedding gift. They thought the things they brought were cheap, but when they saw that the gifts brought by others were either half a bag of flour, 2 strings of sausages, or half a bag of whole grains, they suddenly felt that their gifts were more than enough. They sat at a table in a corner of the yard, waiting for the dishes to be served. They were shocked when they saw that most of the dishes were vegetables with only a small bowl of braised pork. The braised pork was cut so thin that it disappeared after a few chews. Only 15 slices were given to each table, and there were at least 10 people at one table. In addition to the vegetarian dishes, a small bowl of egg soup noodles was also given. The noodles had no flavor as the soup was so clear that you could barely see the egg. After seeing the food for the banquet, they understood why the villagers came with these gifts. Compared to the food, the gift was generous. While eating, Wang Muxiao and Liu Hua kept looking at the bride and groom's table. Seeing Suana so calm, both of them saw the confusion in each other's eyes. Did Grandma Gao's beating really subdue her? Knowing how much Suana was obsessed with Li Chenmo, Wang Muxiao felt that the current situation was like the calm before the storm. She felt something might happen in the future, and it wouldn't be a good thing. At the same time, in another city, the Su family was in panic because Father Su and Su Bohan received a letter of dismissal. Sitting in the small living room, Father Su looked pale, while Mother Su was crying. Hearing his wife's sobs, Father Su was very angry. He pounded the table and shouted, "Cry, cry, cry, all you know is crying." When her husband scolded her, Mother Su became angry and retorted, "Why are you scolding me? If you were so capable, why were you suddenly fired?" Seeing that his parents were about to quarrel again, Su Bohan shouted, "That's enough. Instead of arguing, it's better to find a way to solve this matter. Someone must be targeting our family, otherwise my father and I wouldn't have been dismissed so suddenly." Shocked by his son's outburst, Father Su and Mother Su stopped talking. After a while, Su Bohan added, "Father, Mother, have you offended anyone recently?" Father Su was deep in thought, but Mother Su shook her head. "I have been staying at home and only occasionally talked to the neighbors. They cannot have the power to have both you and your father fired from the factory." "Then who is it?" Su Bohan said with confusion. After a long time, Father Su suddenly said, "Anna said in her last letter that she wanted to marry a man named Li Chenmo and asked us to prepare a dowry for her. Does this matter have anything to do with that man?" Su Bohan shook his head and said, "It's impossible. Didn't my sister say that man was going to marry her? What's more, if they were planning to get married, why would he attack our family?" "Son, we must find out the truth. If there is no job, the government will take back this house, and we can only go back to the village. Even if I starve to death, I will not go back to that village," Father Su said with a hint of panic. Seeing her husband's panicked look, Mother Su was a little confused and asked, "Husband, why didn't you want to go to the village? Did you hide something from me?" Knowing that he had made a mistake, Father Su took a deep breath, calmed down his emotions, and said, "When I leave that place, I said I will never return. It will be embarrassing to come back." Mother Su thought about his words and nodded. She also didn't want to live in that place and be laughed at by her family and the villagers. Seeing that his parents insisted on staying in the city, Su Bohan pinched the bridge of his nose and said, "Mother, Father, I'll go out and see what's going on." Hearing this, Mother Su nodded and said, "Okay, no matter what, you must find out what's going on. Mother can't live in the village." After listening to his mother's words, Su Bohan got up and left the house. At the same time in the capital, Zyro Yiguan was reading a document when his subordinates walked into his office. The young man saluted and said, "First Sergeant, everything is done as per your order." Hearing his report, Zyro Yiguan nodded and said, "MHMM, thank you for your hard work." The young man saluted, left the office and closed the door. Hearing the sound of the door closing, Zyro Yiguan dialed the phone. As soon as the call was connected, he said, "Just do it as usual, make sure they receive the documents tonight." After he finished speaking, he hung up the phone, and when he heard a knock on the door he said, "Please come in." As soon as the door opened, Zyro Yiking walked in and asked, "Brother, have you eaten?" Seeing his sister, a smile appeared on his cold face as he said, "Not yet." Hearing what he said, Zyro Yiking sighed and said, "I knew you would skip your breakfast. Let's eat together, I'm hungry." "All right." After signing the documents, he and Zyro Yiking left the office together with a smile on his face, as if he had not given orders to destroy the Su family just now. Meanwhile, in Zai village, Lu Jiyu was reading a book on the backyard veranda. Not long after, she heard a knock on the backyard door. After putting the book into her own space, she went to open the door and saw Beiji standing outside. Beiji handed over the envelope and said, "Sister-in-law, here is the pre-order list and the last batch of money." Lu Jiyu took the envelope and said, "Thank you, brother Beiji. My husband is not at home, so it is inconvenient to invite you in." Beiji nodded and said, "It's all right, sister-in-law. I still need to visit others, so I will take my leave now." After speaking, he checked the surrounding situation, turned around and left. Lu Jiyu locked the door and went to her bedroom. She sat on the Kang bed and checked the pre-order list. Sure enough, Huzi limited the amount of the pre-order according to her request. While she may be making less money, her items will become rarer, which attracts more people. Since her target market was the wealthy families, she planned to make a name for herself before the economic reform and opening up. So when she finally opened her own restaurant, she didn't need to advertise. People would automatically associate her restaurant with delicious, wealthy, rare, and upscale. To do this, she had to add another menu. She took a piece of paper and a pen from the drawer and began writing a list of food and drinks. Unlike the previous list, which only had ordinary food and drinks, this time the list is filled with tonics, cocktails, desserts, and other exquisite food and drinks. As for the daily amount of this list, it is only 30% compared to the first list. She is implementing a hunger marketing strategy. As soon as she finished writing the menu, she heard Lu Han's voice coming from the front yard. "Jiyu, are you home?" Hearing her brother's voice, Lu Jiyu kept the list in the space and went to open the door, coming. Opening the door, she saw Lu Han walking back and forth with a frown on his face. "Brother, what's wrong?" she asked. Lu Han heard her voice, turned around and said, "Jiyu, mother asked me to call you back to our parents' house." "What's the matter?" she asked again. Our parents are going to separate the family." Lu Han sighed and said. Lu Jiyu was stunned by her brother's words and said, "Why did our mother want to separate the family so suddenly? Elder brother, what actually happened?" "Lu Cheng and I don't know what happened either. When we were having breakfast, our mother suddenly told us about it. You should come with me." Lu Jiyu nodded and said, "Okay, please wait a moment." After saying that, she went to her bedroom and left a note for her husband. Then, she locked the door and left with Lu Han. At the same time at the Lu family's house, Mother Lu and Father Lu took the children and sat on the Kang bed, while Chen Anwen, Lu Cheng and Wang Muxiao sat on the bamboo chairs. Apart from the children, only Father Lu and Mother Lu were eating the snacks calmly. As for others, they are extremely anxious as they feel they are sitting on pins and needles. They didn't know what they had done to make Mother Lu so insistent on separating the family. After a long time, Wang Muxiao finally couldn't help but ask, "Mother, did I do something wrong and make you angry?" Mother Lu looked at her and said, "No, what made you think so?" After hearing what her mother-in-law said, Wang Muxiao became even more confused and asked, "Then why do you want to separate the family suddenly?" "Mother, if I do something that makes you angry, you can beat me or scold me." "My second sister-in-law is right. Mother, if we do something wrong, you can tell us. There is no need to separate the family. Aren't we doing well now?" Chen Anwen added. Before Mother Lu could reply, Lu Han and Lu Jiyu arrived. Seeing everyone present, Father Lu took a sip of water and said, "Jiyu, you're here. Sit down." Feeling the tension in the air, Lu Jiyu sat down next to Chen Anwen and asked, "Mother, Father, what's going on? If there are any problems, we can discuss them. Don't make such a hasty decision." After listening to her words, Mother Lu smiled and said, "You all can relax. Your father and I made this decision after a long period of careful consideration. We separated our families not because of any problems, but because all of you have married and it's time to let all of you manage your own family. When the tree is too dense, we need to cut the branches and leaves so it can grow better. Your mother and I are both old and can no longer take care of your family's matters, Father Lu added. When Lu Jiu heard her father's words, she understood what her parents meant. Since her brothers are already married and have families of their own, it is better to separate them to avoid any trouble between them in the future. Thinking about it, it is understandable for her parents to make such a decision. After a brief silence, Lu Han finally said, "Since father and mother have decided, my wife and I will follow your arrangements." Although Wang Muxiao still doubted that her parents-in-law's reason was that simple, she still said, "I will also listen to father and mother's arrangements." Since they had no objection, Mother Lu went to the cabinet to get the jar where the family's money and coupons were kept. After that, she took out all the money and coupons and said, "This is our family's money and coupons. We will divide them according to the number of people. Each child will receive a half share, while the adults receive 1 share." The total was 378 yuan and 89 cents. Mother Lu handed Lu Han the portions for his family and said, "Our Han's family will receive 3 portions, a total of 151 yuan and 20 cents. Then Mother Lu handed Lu Cheng the portion for his family and said, 2.5 portions for our Cheng's family, a total of 126 yuan. The coupons had been divided equally. The remaining money is your father's and my share. As for the food, we will use the same method to divide it. Is there any problem?" Mother Lu asked. Lu Han took the money, shook his head and said, "Father, Mother, we have no objections. But as your children, we still have to be filial to you too. So every year we will give 20% of the food and meat share that we receive from the production team. We will return 50 yuan as a sign of filial piety to both of you." Mother Lu knew that her daughter-in-law made a lot of money from selling snacks, so she did not refuse and accepted the money. Seeing this, Lu Cheng glanced at his wife. Noticing her husband's gaze, Wang Muxiao nodded to him. Although he listens to his wife and indulges her, Lu Cheng is still the head of the family. Therefore, Wang Muxiao always lets her husband make the decision when it comes to money and food. What's more, her parents-in-law are very kind to her, and it is indeed their responsibility to take care of them in their old age. So no matter what her husband decides, she has no objection. After hearing his brother's decision, Lu Cheng handed 50 yuan to his mother and said, "Mother, my wife and I will do the same thing as my brother." Mother Lu nodded and accepted the money. After dividing the money and food, it was time to process the documents. Father Lu took out his household registration book and took Lu Han and Lu Cheng to find Han Yuheng. Before they were leaving, Mother Lu said, "Old Lu, there are still some eggs in the kitchen. Take 5 eggs with you." Everyone in the village knows that with gifts, Han Yuheng will prioritize their affairs. In order to complete the separation faster, Father Lu took the eggs away. After they left, Lu Jiu looked at her mother and said, "Mother, if you need anything in the future, just come to me." Wang Muxiao listened to her words, nodded, and said, "Jiu is right. Mother, although we are separated, we are still a family. So if you and father need anything, just tell us. We have the ability to give you a good life now, so you can enjoy your old age earlier than others." Mother Lu snorted and said, "Your father and I are still young and we didn't plan to live an idle life yet. But if we need anything in the future, we will surely let all of you know." After listening to her words, they felt at ease. After talking about the important things, they were just chatting at the moment, as it was rare for Jiu to return to her maternal family's house. Meanwhile, Father Lu was knocking on Han Yuheng's door. Not long after, the door was opened, and Han Liling appeared from behind the door with her younger brother in her arms. She looked at them and asked, "Grandpa Lu, Uncle Lu, are you looking for my father?" Father Lu smiled and said, "That's right, Zyro Ling is your father at home." Han Liling shook her head and said, "My father went out and hasn't come back yet." After thinking about it, Father Lu handed her the eggs and said, "Then can you wait until your father comes back and tell him that we are looking for him? These are some eggs for you and your brother." Han Liling took the egg and said, "Thank you, Grandpa Lu, I will inform my father later." After closing the door, Han Liling looked at the eggs thoughtfully and then went to inform her mother about the Lu family's visit. As she walked, she glanced at her brother and said, "Look, there are quite a lot of people who fawn over our father. Unfortunately, you are still too young to enjoy these benefits. Wait until you grow up, you can get everything you want." The baby in her arms looked at her with innocent eyes and made a sound that no one could understand. Han Liling looked at her brother and said, If only you were not a boy, I would not do this to you and make our parents regret what they did to me. Unfortunately, you are a boy. At the same time, in an abandoned granary near the mountain foothills, Han Yuheng was engaging in activities with a married woman from a neighboring village. While he moved his waist, he asked the woman under him hoarsely, "Slut, didn't your man satisfy you last night? You came to find me so early today. What if you get pregnant?" The woman beneath her moaned and said breathlessly, "Stop talking about that useless man. If he could perform well in bed, will I need to find you? My mother-in-law has been urging me to have a son. It would be great if I could get pregnant." Hearing what she said, Han Yuheng grinned and said, "You are so shameless, but it's not bad for me to have another man to raise my son." "Han Yuheng, even if I am pregnant with your son, he will not recognize you as his father," the woman said while hugging him tighter. Hearing her words, Han Yuheng was unhappy and increased his strength, causing the woman to let out a scream of pleasure. After a while, Han Yuheng changed their position and said, "It feels so comfortable and exciting to do it with you. It's not like that woman who can only lie on the bed like a dead fish." The woman hugged him tightly and said with a hint of grievance, "Who asked you to marry that boring woman instead of me? You deserve it." Displeased by her words, he increased his force and speed, causing the woman to let out another scream of pleasure. Afraid of being heard, Han Yuheng covered her mouth and said, "Keep your voice down. Han Yuheng, you already admit that you like my body more than your wife's body. Are you still afraid of being discovered by your wife?" Hearing what she said, Han Yuheng frowned and said, "I'm not afraid of her." "So what is it that makes you choose her over me?" she asked. Instead of answering her question, Han Yuheng said, "It's almost time for the team assessment. If I'm discovered at this time, my career will be over, so you'd better keep your voice down." Although the two were lovers before, Han Yuheng chose to marry Bai Lian because her uncle was a brigade staff member. He chose his career over lover and broke up with this woman. After so many years, she came to him now just because she knew that he was lusting after her body, and he was not a good man as he portrayed. After being married for so long, she only gave birth to 2 daughters and needed a son. However, her husband is not as good as when he was young and seldom touches her. Therefore, she could only come to find her ex-lover. As for her husband, that man is so useless and doesn't care about her at all. Even if he knew about her and Han Yuheng, he wouldn't do anything to her, nor did he care to. After another 10 minutes, Han Yuheng finally groaned and got his release. At the same time, the woman let out another scream and twitched as she too found her release. She was too tired to move. However, she must come back before noon, otherwise her mother-in-law will become suspicious. So after resting for a while, she pushed him away and put on her clothes. She gave him a seductive look before swaying her hips and left the abandoned granary. Looking at her curvaceous body, Han Yuheng's eyes darkened and he felt his blood boiling all over. He cleaned himself with a handkerchief, put on his clothes, and left with a great mood. What they didn't know was that Sheng Xiaohong was hiding behind the tree and watching them engaged in their extramarital affair. She looked at Han Yuheng's back and murmured coldly, "Han Yuheng, I finally caught your weakness. This time I will definitely make you regret embarrassing me." When Han Yuheng's back was no longer visible, Sheng Xiaohong turned around and walked back to her home. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, Li Chenmo came back from the mountain foothills and went to the Lu family to pick up his wife. Not long after the two left, Han Yuheng knocked on the door. "Uncle Lu, are you at home?" Opening the door, Lu Han said, "Team leader, you are here, please come in." "Brother Han, I heard from Xiaoling that you and your father just came over. Is there anything I can do to help you?" Han Yuheng asked as he walked into the living room. Seeing them coming, Father Lu stood up and said, "Team leader, you are here, please have a seat." Han Yuheng sat down opposite Father Lu and said, "Thank you, Uncle Lu." Lu Han poured Han Yuheng a cup of warm tea and sat next to his father. After taking a sip of tea, Han Yuheng put down his teacup and asked, "Uncle Lu, I wonder why you came to see me in the morning." "Team leader, my wife and I have decided to separate the family's household. Can you help us handle the document?" Father Lu asked. Han Yuheng nodded and said, "Uncle Lu, I can help you handle this small matter. The document should be ready around the afternoon." Father Lu handed him the household registration book and said, "Then, I'll leave this matter to you. Thank you, team leader." Han Yuheng took the household registration book and said, "Uncle Lu, you are my father's friend. There is no need to be so polite to me." Father Lu didn't speak when he heard what he said, but just smiled at him. Who doesn't know that from the day he proposed to his wife Song Yu, his relationship with Han Yuheng's father turned sour? It had been years, and he hadn't even exchanged pleasantries with that man when they crossed paths on the road. It's ridiculous to hear Han Yuheng mention their broken friendship now. When Lu Han saw Han Yuheng off, Father Lu returned to his room. Recalling the hickey on Han Yuheng's neck, he said, "Wife, that man's son is indeed not a good man. Like father, like son." Mother Lu glanced at her grumpy husband and said, "Old Lu, your grandson is old enough to go to school. Why can't you forget the past matters? I don't even remember why you quarreled with him in the first place. Is it fun to hold a grudge for so many years?" Father Lu sat on the Kang bed, hugging his granddaughter, and snorted, "Even if I turn into ashes, I will still remember that matter. How dare he try to coax you to leave me? How dare he compete with me with that kind of face? He should see his reflection in his piss." When they were young, both Father Lu and Mother Lu were famous for their good looks and great figures. Even compared to Father Li and Mother Li, they won't lose out. Everyone can tell by how good-looking their children are. Therefore, it makes sense for Father Lu to say those words. Mother Lu rolled her eyes at him and said, "You can do whatever you like." Before Father Lu could refute his wife, Lu Wenfeng tugged on his beard and muttered, "Grandpa, Grandpa." As soon as Father Lu heard her call, he was so happy that he forgot about his unhappiness. He looked at his wife and said proudly, "Wife, look at my good granddaughter. She is very smart and knows who loves her the most." After saying that, Father Lu rubbed Lu Wenfeng's head and praised, "Good granddaughter, call Grandpa again." Seeing that his sister was pampered by their grandpa, Lu Wenmu also walked up to Father Lu and said, "Grandpa, Xiaomu also wants a hug." Father Lu was happy and said with a smile on his face, "Oh, my good grandson. Come, Grandpa will give you a hug too." Seeing her husband and her grandchildren were having fun, Mother Lu smiled and continued to sew clothes for her unborn grandchild. Meanwhile, Lu Jiu and Li Chenmo were in space, eating snacks to fill their stomachs. They would wait for their foster children to come back and have lunch together. After eating some fruit pie and hot milk, Li Chenmo went to make more bamboo utensils, including bamboo bottles. While her husband was working in the yard, Lu Jiu took out the new menu, made some samples, and started making the pre-ordered food for tonight. Some pre-ordered foods take time to cook, such as herbal chicken soup, which costs 30 yuan per bowl. Although it is expensive, the herbs used to cook it are not cheap at all and could be said to be rare in this era. Beside ginseng, there was wolfberries, Chinese wild yam, astragalus root, red dates, Codonopsis root, Angelica sinensis, Solomon's seal, and honey dates. Normally, due to the medicinal materials used in making this dish, the soup tastes like Chinese medicine, which makes people frown when they eat it. But since she used the water of her space and a pinch of spiritual grass powder, those unpleasant herbal smells disappeared, replaced by the fresh smell of morning dew. Because of this, even if she prepares 200 bowls of this soup every day, she can never meet customer demand. What's more, the amount now has been reduced to 100 bowls a day. Because of its rarity, some customers even offer higher prices to buy it. But Huzi refused the offer and adopted a first-come, first-served system. After preparing the materials, Lu Jiu soaked all the medicinal materials, except wolfberry, red dates, and honey dates. Afterward, she cut 5 black-boned chickens, washed them, put them in a pot of boiling water, before adding a few slices of ginger to blanch them. This process helps remove dirt and blood from the bones. Then she picked out the chicken and transferred it to a large clay pot. She adds water and soaked herbs, brings it to a boil, then simmers it for 2 hours. While waiting for the chicken soup, she made fried hand pies. This kind of pie is smaller and can be eaten in a few bites, so it is easier to sell, easy to pack, and easy to transport. In terms of fillings, she prepared peach filling, strawberry filling, 3-berry filling, and apple filling. The most popular fillings are peach and apple fillings. By the time she finished fried the pie, the chicken soup was ready. She added wolfberry, red dates, and honey dates and cooked for another 30 minutes. After the soup was ready, she seasoned it with salt and poured the soup into 2 jars. She shredded the chicken, added it to the soup, and closed the jar. Then she prepared 2 types of tofu pudding, the sweet one with brown sugar and ginger juice, and the savory one with minced pork, dried lilies, shiitake mushrooms, wood ear mushrooms, and green onions. As for tofu pudding, Lu Jiu does not need to make it by hand because she bought a tofu factory that can produce silken tofu, soft tofu, medium soft tofu, firm tofu, extra firm tofu, and super firm tofu. That factory can also produce soy milk and tofu pudding. A bowl of sweet tofu pudding could be sold for 3 yuan, and a bowl of savory tofu pudding costs 8 yuan. Every day, she prepares 100 bowls of each type. Tofu pudding is a good choice for breakfast or snacks for the elderly and children, which makes it one of the best sellers. After she finished packaging the tofu pudding, Li Chenmo also finished his work. While she has the factory to produce many products from bamboo, her husband still insists on handcrafting some of the daily items. His reason was that the quality of the products in her space was too good to be handmade. Therefore, she could only let him do it manually. Fortunately, there are many tools that make it easier for her husband to create these items. Otherwise, she would feel heartbroken when she looked at her husband's injured hands. After washing his hands, Lee Chenmo walked to his wife, leaned over and kissed her. Seeing that she had prepared lunch, he said, "Wife, go and have a rest, don't tire yourself." "I'm almost done, husband, you go wash up first," Lu Jiu said while stirring the soup. "All right." After kissing her again, Lee Chenmo went to the bedroom to take a shower. When she was alone, Lu Jiu checked her task list and smiled. Her husband loves to kiss and hug her, which makes it easier for her to complete her daily tasks. Add in small tasks like cooking for her husband or massaging him, and she can earn millions of gold coins every day. As for the main task, she glanced at the words consummated marriage and sighed. It wasn't that she didn't want to, but her husband never crossed the line, even though his body clearly reacted to her touches every time they kissed or hugged. She didn't know whether to praise him for his strong self-control or worry about his health. In the previous life, her colleagues would talk about the sexual affairs between themselves and their partners, and heard that it would be bad for a man's health if he kept holding it in. Although she wasn't sure if the information was correct, she couldn't be careless with her husband's health. What if it's really bad for a man's health? Will it not only be her husband who will suffer in the future, but also herself? While Lu Jiu's thoughts were wandering, Lee Chenmo had already finished showering and saw his wife deep in thought. She didn't even notice that the soup was about to overflow the pot. He quickened his pace, turned off the stove, and asked, "Wife, what are you thinking about?" Hearing her husband's voice, Lu Jiu came back to her senses and said, "It's nothing, I'm just a little tired. Husband, I'm going to wash up first." Lee Chenmo saw the red tips of his wife's ears and raised his eyebrows, MHMM. When he was alone, he put the dishes in the dishwasher and cleaned the kitchen. He then went to do their laundry, including that of their foster child. It's easy since he uses a washing machine. Then, they just need to take the clothes out of the space and put them in the sun to dry. While waiting for his wife, he went to the living room to read. When Lu Jiu came out, he saw that her husband was concentrating on reading and did not notice her at all. She picked up a book and sat next to her husband. After that, she snuggled into his arms, finding a comfortable position, and began to read. Although the two of them did not speak and were focused on their books, Lu Jiu was very satisfied with their interaction. Whenever she was with him, her heart warmed and she felt at peace. After they finish reading, they go to bed, and when they wake up, they leave the space. At noon, the school bell finally rang, and the children rushed home. Not everyone brings snacks like the children of the Lu family and the Li family. At this moment, their stomachs were growling with hunger. When Dong Huang was packing her school bag, she heard the sound of Feng Lin's stomach rumble. She looked up and saw him blushing from shyness. Feng Lin held his stomach and said, "Ah Huang, I let you see a joke." Dong Huang was used to it since she was also like that when she was hungry, so she didn't find anything wrong or embarrassing and said, "Brother Lin, I still have some snacks, you can have it." Feng Lin's parents rarely came back while working in the factory, and the money they sent was only enough for his school tuition. With only his grandparents and himself, they didn't earn many work points, leading to food shortages. He could only have very thin millet porridge and a small pancake for breakfast. As for lunch, he and his grandparents would eat around mid-afternoon, so they could skip dinner to save food. Although he was embarrassed to accept Dong Huang's food, he was indeed so hungry that his stomach ached. He glanced at the snack that was wrapped in oil paper and reached out to take it. He held the snacks in his hands and said awkwardly, "Thank you, Ah Huang." Hearing this, Dong Huang smiled and said, "Brother Lin, my foster mother told me that I must be kind to my friends. Since we are friends from now on, I will share my snacks with you." Feng Lin nodded, and the two left the classroom together while holding hands. At the school gate, Dong Huang said goodbye to him and walked to her brother's side. Feng Ling stood on the gate and watched her walk away, then turned and returned to his home. Although the snacks Dong Huang gave him were not many, he couldn't bear to eat them by himself because his grandparents were also starving. Thinking of this, he quickened his pace. When he got home, he saw his grandfather weaving bamboo baskets. The bamboo basket will be exchanged for some coarse grains at the state-owned store. Only in this way can they survive until the distribution day. "Grandpa, I'm back," Feng Lin said as he walked towards his grandpa. Seeing that his grandson was back, Grandpa Feng nodded and said, "Zyro Lin, you are back. You go wash your hands and take a rest first." Feng Lin nodded and walked to the backyard. There he saw his grandma cleaning the wild vegetables she had picked in the morning. Looking at her back, his heart was filled with anger and hatred for his parents. Everyone always thinks that children don't understand anything. In fact, he had known for a long time that his parents hated each other and already had a lover. Therefore, they are reluctant to return to the village even during the Chinese New Year. In order not to affect their relationship with their lovers, both his parents lied about their marital status. Of course, they couldn't make their son's presence known. He once asked his grandparents why his parents hated each other but didn't want a divorce. At that time, his grandparents only said that the world of adults is very complicated and there are many things to consider. Unfortunately, he wasn't one of the many things his parents would consider. From then on, he decided to treat his parents as if they were dead and only be filial to his grandparents. Taking a deep breath, Feng Lin controlled his emotions and said with a smile, "Grandma, I'm back." Grandma Feng turned around and said with a smile, "Zyro Lin is back. What's the matter? You look happy." Feng Lin nodded and said, "My deskmate Dong Huang gave me some snacks. Grandma, let's eat it together." After hearing what her grandson said, Grandma Feng was surprised and said, "Zyro Lin, how can you accept the food of your deskmate?" Knowing that his grandma would start nagging, Feng Lin quickly said, "I gave her a piece of candy, and she gave me some snacks. She also said that since we are friends, everything between us will be shared, so there's no problem with me accepting her food. I'll give her my food too." Grandma Feng nodded after listening to his explanation and said, "It's good to have more friends. Grandma is almost done here. You go and wash your hands first." All right, Feng Lin quickly washed his hands, took a bowl from the kitchen, and went to the front yard to find his grandfather. Not long after, Grandma Feng came out and sat down next to her husband. Taking out the snacks from his clothes, Feng Lin opened them and put a piece of scallion pancake as big as a plate and 2 pieces of beef jerky into the bowl. When Grandma Feng saw that the pancake was made of white flour and had minced meat on them, she said, "Zyro Lin, your friend is so generous." Feng Lin was also surprised when he saw these snacks. He thought that at most it would just be some fruit slices like the one Dong Huang shared with him before. Unexpectedly, these so-called snacks turned out to be delicacies that he had not eaten for a long time. Not to mention beef jerky, even scallion pancakes are rare for him. After a while he came to his senses and divided the pancake into 3 parts. He took one and said, "Grandpa and Grandma, please try it quickly. This is made by Ah Huang's adoptive mother. Her cooking skills are famous in Zai village." Grandpa Feng split a beef jerky in half and handed a scallion pancake and half of the beef jerky to his wife. Then he handed a piece of beef jerky to Feng Lin and said, "You are still growing, so you have this beef jerky. Grandpa and Grandma will share the other one." Feng Lin did not refuse because he knew that he had to grow up quickly to help his grandparents. The 3 of them ate slowly while savoring the taste. Although the portion was not enough, their fatigue disappeared after eating and they felt refreshed. They thought they were too hungry before, so after eating some food, it was normal for them to feel refreshed, and no one connected it with the snack's health properties. At Li Chenmo's house after lunch, Li Chenmo taught the children in the living room, while Lu Jiu went to pick peaches. She then went to the backyard, retrieved 5 fish from her space and began cleaning up. Because there is a river behind her house, eating fish is normal for them. After washing the fish, she marinates it for a while, then wraps it in banana leaves and bakes it in a brick oven. While she waited for the fish to finish baking, she kneaded the dough for pizza. In addition to yeast, water, flour, oil, salt, and sugar, Lu Jiu also adds some garlic powder, Italian herbs, and cornmeal to add flavor and crunch. It freezes well and forms a thin crust. She fermented the dough in her refrigerator inside the space and prepared the sauce and toppings. She plans to make a bacon, veggie, and mushroom pizza for her foster children, a barbecue meatball pizza for herself, and a supreme pizza for her husband. As she prepared the ingredients, the aroma of grilled fish filled the air. She took out the pizza dough, started shaping it, and put it into the iron pan. After pouring the sauce and toppings, she set it aside. Then she took the grilled fish out of the brick oven and put the pizza in it. She added more firewood to raise the temperature in the brick oven and baked the pizza for 15 minutes. In the kitchen, she put grilled fish in her own space for dinner. She took out 2 peaches, a cantaloupe, and a watermelon from the space. She cut half of the cantaloupe, a quarter of the watermelon and the peaches, and placed them on a bamboo bowl. She kept the rest of the cantaloupe and watermelon in her space and brought the fruit plate into the living room. When the children smelled the fruit, they couldn't help but sniff. Li Chenmo hit their foreheads with a pencil and said, "Concentrate on your homework." Dong Li and Dong Huang were both afraid of their adoptive father and quickly focused on the books in front of them. Lu Jiu smiled when she saw them so obedient in front of her husband. She put the fruit on the table and said, "Husband, eat some fruit." Li Chenmo smiled and nodded at his wife. Thank you, wife." Since there was still time until the pizza was ready, Lu Jiu sat next to him and picked a cantaloupe with a fork. She brought it to her husband's mouth and said, "Here's your favorite cantaloupe." Li Chenmo didn't feel embarrassed about being fed by his wife in front of the children and ate the fruit calmly. After swallowing, he looked at the children and said, "Eat the fruit first before continuing with your homework." After hearing his words, the children were very happy. They enjoyed the fruit while talking about what they learned at school and what they were doing with their friends. After resting for 15 minutes, Lu Jiu went to the backyard with an empty plate and took out the pizza from the oven. She put the pizza in her space and washed the plates, pots, and pans. The smell of food lingered in the air, and the neighbors would not be suspicious if they saw her family eating baked food. Since Pan Magia and her sister-in-law would come over after dinner, Lu Jiu went to the bedroom to check the account books. Because she was concentrating on her work, she didn't notice how long she had been working. Suddenly, she heard her husband's voice, "Wife, you have been working for almost 2 hours. You should stop and take a rest." Hearing this, Lu Jiu smiled and said, "Husband, I'm not that delicate. It's normal to work for a few hours." Li Chenmo knew that she had once stood for a long time, doing the heavy work of cooking for several hours without stopping. However, her body was healthier than a normal person at that time. Now she is much weaker than a normal person. How could her body bear such exhaustion, Prev? Next, under her husband's gaze, Lu Jiu finally closed the ledger and kept it in her own space. She sighed and said with a smile, "Husband, I will listen to you. Don't look at me like that." It wasn't until she kissed him on the chin that Li Chenmo said softly, "MHMM." Seeing him like this, the image of a wolf dog emerged in Lu Jiu's mind, and she was amused by her imagination. Her husband was dangerous, intimidating, and stubborn, but he was also the gentlest, most caring, loyal, and protective person she had ever known. Sometimes she can see the shadow of Yi Yan in her husband. Both doted on her and were very protective of her. Lu Jiu smiled and stood on her tiptoes to kiss him. The moment their lips touched, Li Chenmo's thoughts were all focused on his wife's soft body and lips. He had no time to think about the children who were studying in the living room. He closed the door with his foot and deepened the kiss. Not knowing that her adoptive parents were being intimate in the room, Dong Huang turned to look at her brother and said, "Brother, I think our adoptive father is much smarter than Teacher Lin. I only listened to our adoptive father's explanation once and I understood how to solve this problem. However, when Teacher Lin explained it to me, it took me a long time to understand." Dong Li agreed with his sister and said, "In that case, you should study more at home and do your homework during the break time at school. Don't run around all the time, or you may fall and bruise your knees." After hearing his words, Dong Huang asked again, "Then brother, do I still need to listen to Teacher Lin's class?" This time, Dong Li finally looked at his sister and said, "Of course you have to listen to the teacher. It's also good to learn more ways to solve problems so that you don't make mistakes when answering questions during exams. Zyro Huang, we have to repay the kindness of our adoptive parents. To do this, we must study hard. Only when you have knowledge can you find a good job, make a lot of money, and let our adoptive parents live a good life in their later years. Do you understand?" he added seriously. Although her understanding of her brother's words was limited, Dong Huang still nodded and remembered these words in her heart. After a brief conversation, both of them continued to study more focused than before. In the bedroom, Lu Jiu and Li Chenmo were taking a nap after sharing a deep kiss and didn't wake up until after 4 o'clock. When they came out of the bedroom, Dong Li and Dong Huang had already gone to collect pigweed with Lu Wenyu, Li Jinqian, and Li Jingsu. Since the children were not around, Lu Jiu brought her husband into her space. She went to prepare dinner while her husband worked out in the living room. Although he was still in good shape, Li Chenmo felt that he was starting to gain weight and lose muscle, especially his abdominal muscles. He knew that his wife loved a lean man with well-proportioned muscles, so he had to get back those chiseled abs. Otherwise, his wife might find him unattractive, which would be a disaster. With this thought, his motivation to exercise increased. Not knowing that her husband was worried about his muscles, Lu Jiu was thinking about what to make for the children's snacks tomorrow. After thinking about it, she decided to make pad thai and chicken satay for them. This will keep them full and they won't be hungry until lunch. She learned from Dong Huang that she shared her snacks with her deskmate because her deskmate's stomach was growling from hunger. Although Dong Li reprimanded his sister for being insensible, Lu Jiu still said that it was okay to share it with others. In order to reassure Dong Li, she took him to the kitchen and showed him their food supplies. He was relieved when he saw that the jar was filled with rice, noodles, flour, and other ingredients. It's normal for him to be stingy with his meals, as he was used to starving after his parents died, until he met her and her husband. What's more, Lu Jiu knew that Dong Li felt embarrassed for eating their food and using their money and items. So he was angry when he learned that his sister could give away food to others without asking her adoptive parents for permission. A change in mentality takes time, but Lu Jiu is in no hurry. They still have a long way to go. She was sure she could change Dong Li's view on the matter. After making her decision, she started preparing ingredients and cooking the snacks. She also prepared breakfast for tomorrow. Afterward, she made some tonic wine, fruit wine, rice wine, and beer before going to wash up. As she walked through the living room, she stopped suddenly when she saw her husband's back muscles tightening as he did push-ups. She watched the sweat flow from her husband's spine to his waist, and finally to his abdominal muscles and drip to the floor. She swallowed, feeling the temperature getting hot so suddenly. Seeing him finish doing the push-ups, Lu Jiu hurried to the bedroom and closed the door. She took a deep breath inside and fanned her face, unaware that her husband outside was smiling cunningly. Worried that she would encounter the same situation, she deliberately soaked in the hot tub for 30 minutes before finishing her bath. Unexpectedly, she did not bump into her husband, who was exercising when she came out from the bedroom, but saw him drinking water instead. Her eyes were fixed on Li Chenmo's Adam's apple that moved when he drank and his naked, sweaty upper body. As soon as she came out, Li Chenmo noticed her and everything he did was intentional. Li Chenmo was feeling so proud when he saw his wife couldn't take her eyes off him. However, his wife is thin-skinned and he doesn't want to scare her. As if he had just noticed her, he turned to look at her and asked calmly, "Wife, have you finished taking a shower?" Coming back to her senses, Lu Jiu nodded and said, "Husband, go take a shower, don't catch a cold." As soon as she finished her words, she left the house and went to check the farmland as if she didn't drool when she saw her husband's body. Although her expression was calm, her pace was fast, revealing her hidden nervousness. She even heard her husband chuckling behind her back. After Li Chenmo took a shower, the two left the space together and appeared in their bedroom. She made 3 large pans of pizza for dinner. So Lu Jiu said, "Husband, let's treat your eldest brother and second brother to dinner. I made a new dish for tonight." Li Chenmo already knew that the pizza made by his wife was indeed a new dish of this era. So he nodded and said, "Then I will go to invite them." Lu Jiu nodded and said, Be careful on the road." Not long after Li Chenmo left home, Lu Jiu went to the kitchen to make side dishes to go with the pizza. After thinking about it, she decided to make pumpkin soup, fried tofu with garlic, vegetable and fruit salad, onion rings, roasted eggplant with sesame sauce, and potato wedges. As for drinks, she'll let them try a beer she previously brewed in the space. As the sun set, Dong Li and Dong Huang came back with baskets full of pigweed. They placed the bamboo baskets outside the woodshed, cleaned the dirt on themselves, and then went to the kitchen. When they entered the kitchen, Lu Jiu was frying onion rings and potato wedges. As for the soup, it is held on a brazier to keep it warm. Seeing the children, she smiled and said to them, "You are all back. Come and try the new dishes foster mother made for dinner." Hearing her words, they walked over and saw the kitchen table covered with dishes they had never seen before. Dong Huang sniffed curiously, pointed at the onion rings and asked, "Foster mother, what is this?" "This is called an onion ring. It is made of onions, covered with beaten eggs, flour and batter, and then fried," Lu Jiu explained. Dong Huang has eaten onions before and found them to taste weird and a bit spicy, so she didn't like them at all. So when she heard it was made with onions, she was a little hesitant. Her brother always said it was a sin to waste food. Since her adoptive mother worked hard to prepare it, she should be grateful and eat it without being picky. After hesitating for a long time, she finally said, "Foster mother, thank you for cooking for us." Hearing this, Lu Jiu chuckled and said amusedly, Your foster mother is also very grateful to Zyro Huang and Zyro Li for helping her." Under her gaze, Dong Huang reached for the onion rings and picked one from the bamboo plate. She glanced at her brother, who was eating his second onion ring, and took a bite. The moment she tasted the onion rings, her eyes widened in surprise. As she chewed, she thought, it's not spicy at all, it's even a little bit sweet." Seeing her expression, Lu Jiu knew what she was thinking and asked, "How is it? Do Zyro Li and Zyro Huang like this new dish?" Both of them nodded and said in unison, "Foster mother, it's delicious." It's good that you like it, but don't eat too much, or you won't be able to have dinner. After tasting the other dishes, they went to the backyard to help wash the dishes. Just as Lu Jiu put the last onion ring on the plate, she heard Li Chen's voice coming from the front yard. Third brother, your vegetable garden is growing better and better. Just look at those eggplants, you can tell they are delicious and fresh. Li Chenmo agreed with his brother and said, Brother, if you like it, then bring some back later. Then I won't be polite with you. Thank you, third brother. Li Chen's did not refuse and readily agreed. Entering the living room, Li Chenmo said, Brother, sister-in-law, please have a seat first. I'll go help my wife. Hearing this, Zhang Dongmei said, Third brother, Meijia and I are going to help my third sister-in-law. You can accompany your brothers. After she finished speaking, she and Pan Meijia went to the kitchen. Seeing the Dong siblings washing dishes, Zhang Dongmei asked, Ziro Lei, Ziro Huang, is your foster mother in the kitchen? Dong Li and Dong Huang raised their heads and greeted them. Eldest aunt, Aunt Pan. My foster mother is still in the kitchen, Dong Huang nodded. Before entering the kitchen, they saw Lu Jiu bringing out a large plate of pizza. Seeing the new dishes, Zhang Dongmei and Pan Meijia were very curious. They walked over and asked, Jiu, is this a new dish you made? Yes, but I haven't given it a name, Lu Jiu said with a smile. She didn't dare name it pizza because Pizza Hut would enter the Chinese market in 1990 and open its first store in Beijing. Domino's entered the market in 1995, and the food delivery concept began to emerge at that time. If she boldly uses a brand name, it could get her into trouble in the future. Therefore, it is best to err on the side of caution and avoid using these names. Pan Meijia and Zhang Dongmei came to the kitchen and saw some more dishes on the kitchen table, so they brought them to the living room. The children helped bring out the utensils after washing the dishes. After everyone was seated, Lu Jiu came back from the kitchen with a gourd filled with 2 liters of beer. Seeing her holding the gourd, Li Chenmo quickly stood up and carried it for her. When he put the beer on the chair next to the table, Li Lingyan asked, Sister-in-law, did you brew new wine again? Yes, it's made from malt. When Li Chenmo heard this, he glanced at his wife. He likes a cold beer with pizza or fried chicken. He didn't expect his wife to be able to make her own beer. She truly is his treasure. Not knowing what her husband was thinking at this moment, Lu Jiu poured a glass of beer for everyone. As for the children, she gave them a glass of lemonade. Except for her and Li Chenmo, everyone else took a piece of pizza and tasted it carefully because it was their first time to try this kind of food. As soon as Pan Meijia took a bite, her eyes widened in surprise. Wow, Jiu, this is so delicious. I want to know how you came up with the idea of making this dish. When Lu Jiu heard this, she thought, I didn't come up with the idea at all. But even though she thought so in her heart, she just smiled and said, If you like it, just eat more. Pan Meijia kept nodding, chewing, and said, I will definitely eat more. Seeing his girlfriend take a big bite, Li Lingyan was afraid that she would choke, so he handed her some water and said, Eat slowly, no one will steal your food. After dinner, Dong Li and Dong Huang went to wash up, and then went to their bedrooms to read the book given by Lu Jiu. Li Chenmo and his brothers went to the front yard to harvest some vegetables. While Lu Jiu, Pan Meijia, and Zhang Dongmei were clearing the table and washing dishes, Chen Anwen and Wang Muxiao came with their husbands. Jiu, are you at home? Lu Cheng knocked on the gate. Hearing his voice, Li Chenmo went to open the door and said, Brother-in-law, sister-in-law, you are here, please come in. Brother-in-law, Lu Cheng, and I have to get the new household registration book, so we are not coming in, Lu Han said with a smile. Okay, Li Chenmo nodded and didn't insist. After closing the door, he continued to pick vegetables for his brothers, while Chen Anwen and Wang Muxiao went to the kitchen together. Seeing everyone already present, Wang Muxiao asked, Meijia, sister-in-law, why are you here so early today? Jiu invited us to dinner, so we came earlier, Zhang Dongmei said while stirring the jujube cake batter. Hearing her words, they just nodded and said nothing more. After marrying Li Chenmo, it was normal for Lu Jiu to have a closer relationship with the Li family than the Lu family. Therefore, there was nothing to be jealous of when she invited the Li family to dinner. Wang Muxiao drew up her sleeves and asked, Jiu, what are we making tonight? Lu Jiu took out the pre-order list from her pocket, looked at it and said, we will make 50 bowls of jujube cakes, 300 meat buns, 200 scallion pancakes, and 300 mung bean cakes. Although the cakes and snacks ordered can be said to be ordinary, the amount of them is not small at all. It took them several hours to complete the pre-order list. Fortunately, Lu Jiu has already made those foods that require more work and time. Otherwise, they would not be able to finish cooking before midnight. When they finished packing the snacks and putting them in the bamboo basket, it was already 11 o'clock in the evening. As usual, Lu Jiu handed some more snacks to Pan Magia and her sister-in-law for them to bring back to the family. After sending them away, she closed the door and locked it before going to check on the children. At this time, both Dong Li and Dong Huang had fallen asleep. She covered their bellies with a thin quilt and then returned to her bedroom. Seeing her coming over, Li Chenmo closed the book he was reading, held her hand and asked, "Wife, do you want me to give you a massage?" Lu Jiu smiled at him and said, "Husband, I will be fine after a hot shower." As soon as she finished speaking, the two of them disappeared from the bedroom and reappeared in her space. Lu Jiu went to take a bath and soaked her tired body in the bathtub for 30 minutes. When she came out, all her fatigue disappeared and she felt refreshed. Li Chenmo sat on the bed, looked at her red cheeks and asked again, "Wife, do you really not want a massage?" "Thank you, husband, but I'm not that tired after taking a bath," Lu Jiu said as she climbed onto the bed and lay next to her husband. Seeing her wet hair, Li Chenmo frowned and said, "Wife, don't sleep with your hair wet, you'll get a headache later." Lu Jiu felt sleepy and snuggled into her husband's arms, saying, "I'm so sleepy. Husband, please help me dry my hair." Li Chenmo looked at his coquettish wife and gently pinched her nose. "All right, wait for me." When he returned with a hair dryer, his wife had fallen asleep. He shook his head and dried her hair while she slept. 15 minutes later, he put the hair dryer on the bedside table and pulled her into his arms. He kissed her gently, then closed his eyes and fell asleep. After sleeping for 10 hours, Lu Jiu woke up feeling refreshed. She came out from her space with her husband and showed up in their bedroom. While waiting for Beiji to arrive, the two of them sat on the backyard's veranda, drinking warm bamboo tea. Towards midnight, they heard a knock on the door in the backyard. As usual, Lu Jiu went to the kitchen to take out the things from her space, while Li Chenmo opened the door. Beiji and Ding Sha followed behind him and entered the kitchen, where bamboo baskets were neatly placed. They put down the empty bamboo basket in the corner, and then loaded the bamboo basket filled with snacks, drinks, vegetables, sauces, and fruits onto the tricycle. With pre-order quantities limited, they only need 4 people to deliver the goods. Not long after, they finished loading the goods and left under the night curtain. After locking the door, Lu Jiu and Li Chenmo went back to the bedroom to rest. Early the next morning, Lu Jiu woke up at dawn. After kissing her husband's chin, she tied her hair into a bun and went to the backyard to freshen up. Different from before, Dong Li and Dong Huang were still sleeping soundly in their rooms today. In addition to school homework, Li Chenmo also assigned them some more difficult questions than they usually study in school. Since the study time was very tight, Lu Jiu asked them to concentrate on their studies and not be busy doing housework. Therefore, they only help when they are finished with their studies. Otherwise, they will spend their time studying in the living room. After the villagers found out, they all commented that Lu Jiu was too ignorant and Li Chenmo was too doting on his wife that he let her do as she pleased. As for the Dong siblings, they took advantage of the kindness of their adoptive parents. No matter what era, people always have something to say about other people. So, Li Chenmo told his adoptive children to ignore the villagers' words and concentrate on cultivating themselves. When they succeed in the future, there will be no one who dares to say anything bad about them. After washing up, Lu Jiu went to the kitchen and lit a fire to boil some water. She then went to the chicken coop to get the eggs and refilled the feeder and water bowl. After watering the backyard vegetable garden, she returned to the kitchen to move the pot of water from the stove and let it cool. Since she had prepared breakfast in her own space beforehand, she boiled a pot of hot water for her husband and the children to wash. While waiting for the water to boil, she watered the vegetable garden in her front yard. The sun rose and Dong Li and Dong Huang woke up one after another. Seeing them coming to help her water the garden, Lu Jiu said, "Good morning, Zyro Li, Zyro Huang." Seeing her, the two children smiled and greeted her in unison, "Good morning, foster mother." With their help, they quickly finished watering the vegetable garden. While the children were harvesting vegetables, Lu Jiu went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. As soon as she took out breakfast from the space, she heard her husband's voice, "Good morning, wife." The next moment, he hugged her from behind and kissed her earlobe. Lu Jiu turned around and said, "Good morning, husband. Go wash up first, and then we can have breakfast together." After kissing his wife again, Li Chenmo finally went to wash up. While Lu Jiu's family was living a leisurely life, Su Anna was not as lucky as she was. After yesterday's wedding banquet, Su Anna refused to consummate her marriage with De Gao, causing the Gao family to lose face. Although De Gao said it didn't matter since his newlywed wife was tired, Grandma Gao was still angry with her grandson's wife's arrogance. Therefore, she was already awake early in the morning, waiting for Su Anna to prepare breakfast and call her to eat. But from dawn until the sun rose over the horizon, she didn't see or hear any movement outside. Out of curiosity, she went to the kitchen but saw nothing but a cold stove. There wasn't even a kettle of hot water there. According to custom, as a newlywed daughter-in-law, Su Anna should get up before dawn on the first day of marriage to prepare breakfast for her husband and in-laws. Don't say she didn't consummate the marriage. Even if the marriage was consummated and her body was sore, she would be the one cooking the meal to show respect for her elders and her husband. Grandma Gao was furious when she discovered that Su Anna didn't put her on her eyes at all. She strode to De Gao's room and knocked on the door. De Gao was woken up in a bad mood by a loud knock on the door. Seeing that his wife was still sleeping, he went to open the door with a frown. As soon as the door opened, he was pushed away by his grandma. When he stabilized his body, he saw his grandma pulling his wife's hair and yelling angrily, "You damn woman, the sun has risen to your belly and you are still sleeping like a dead pig. Get up quickly and make breakfast." As her hair was pulled so suddenly, Su Anna woke up because of the pain and burning sensation on her scalp. Before she could recover, she was severely beaten by Grandma Gao and dragged off the Kang bed. "Ah, what are you doing? Let go of my hair, you crazy woman," she shouted, grabbing Grandma Gao's wrist and trying to take her hair away from her. Hearing her cry, De Gao came to his senses and quickly went to help his wife. He held Grandma Gao's wrist and asked, "Grandma, what are you doing? Let go of my wife, you hurt her. Just tell us what makes you angry. There is no need to hit my wife like this." If he hadn't told her off, Grandma Gao might have let Su Anna go after a few beatings. But because of De Gao's interference, her anger only increased like adding fuel to the fire. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the video and comment down if anything wrong in the story.